Spring storms wreak havoc on the region.
And the UNC system president makes Pembroke a priority.
Those stories and more coming up on Carolina News Today.
Carolina News Today is brought to you in part by the Wing Company of Pembroke, serving award-winning wings fresh, not frozen. Live entertainment weekly, 703 West 3rd Street in Pembroke. 10% discount for students and teachers every day. TheOriginalWingCo.com.
Campus police say they have a suspect in the case of a weapons sighting at Courtyard Apartments last week. An anonymous caller on Friday said the man had been seen on Snapchat displaying a handgun while at the pool. Police warned the campus community of the sighting and later sent this image from surveillance footage in hopes of making an identification. Although North Carolina is an open carry state, you can't carry a firearm on campus or store one in a residence hall.
Tornadoes this week in the Piedmont were accompanied by hail and torrential rainfall in some areas. In Greensboro, one person was killed when a tree was uprooted and crushed his car. In Rockingham County, people were spared, but damage was extensive. Here's a report from WXII.
In the light of day, residents are able to get a look at just how extensive this damage is. Although not widespread, it's heavily concentrated in one area.
It's a moment to think about where you are with the Lord. He's looked after us, and I'm thankful.
Julia Bailey and neighbors are counting their blessings as they look at their Reedsville community and the widespread damage, but not one loss of life. The suspected tornado dropped in on this northeast neighborhood, ripping up trees, damaging homes, and tearing down power lines. Hundreds are without power in the county and no word on when it might be back up. The homes on Grooms, Frank, and Rocky Ford roads getting hit the hardest. On Grooms, a home that was in the process of being built was picked up and tossed across the street, landing on a car driving by. We're told the person inside miraculously doesn't have life-threatening injuries. In fact, none of the people caught in yesterday's storm had serious injuries.
It's too powerful for words, really. It's devastating. And I'm concerned about people that were in that car. I don't know what happened to them, but I'm just thankful to be here today.
We know the National Weather Service will be out here and will be able to tell us very soon whether or not this definitely was a tornado that came through Reedsville. Bethany Moore, WXII 12 News.
Governor Roy Cooper and his staff spoke with local officials in Guilford and Rockingham counties about the storm damage. The storms brought up to 5 inches of rainfall and winds up to 70 miles per hour in the foothills and western Piedmont.
I've had an opportunity to go and look at some of the damage that has been done, and clearly this was a powerful storm. Guilford County is not the only county that was hit. We also had damage in Rockingham County, in Iredell County, in Mecklenburg County, in Wake County, and in Alamance County.
85,000 customers were without power on Sunday. Damage assessments conducted by emergency management officials this week will help determine if this weather event qualifies for financial assistance from state or federal governments.
A Fayetteville doctor was convicted of federal drug charges Tuesday. According to the Robisonian newspaper, Dr. Donovan Dave Dixon was charged with conspiracy to unlawfully distribute oxycodone. 20 counts were for unlawful distribution of oxycodone outside of the scope of professional practice and not for a legitimate medical purpose. Testimony in the trial may have sealed Dixon's fate. Witnesses said they never met him, although prescriptions were issued in their names from his Pembroke office. Prosecutors said the pills were sold on the streets of Robeson County. Sentencing is set for July 23rd.
Police in Laurinburg have arrested 2 men this week after 2 car chases turned into foot pursuits. One man fled a traffic stop Monday and sped through town, driving at least 55 miles per hour. Police said he then left his car and fled on foot into a home nearby. In a separate incident, a motorist blew past a stop sign and fled police as they tried to pull him over. According to the Laurinburg Exchange, the man tried to jump a fence when he was captured. Both men were arrested for drug violations and fleeing.
The UNC system is a national leader in keeping college costs down. That's according to System President Margaret Spellings, who's on a tour of the state's public campuses. She delivered a version of her State of the University address at Pembroke on Friday. CNT reporter Malik Worrells was there.
UNC System President Margaret Spellings made a trip to the UNCP Entrepreneurship Incubator to deliver her State of the University's address this past Friday. Dr. Spellings is touring 8 of the 17 UNC System campuses this spring and chose UNCP as one of the first few. Accompanied by speeches from Lumbee Tribe Chairman Harvard Godwin and Chancellor Robin Cummings, Dr. Spellings addressed the system's strategic plan progress and the NC Promise tuition plan that would take effect in fall 2018.
The potential of really showing the way, not only here in North Carolina, but throughout the nation. I mean, our Constitution says as free as practicable, and $500 is pretty darn close. So I think we're all excited about what it can do, a major game changer, both in terms of students who are seeking value and affordability, but also it'll allow this institution to create and build a student body that is truly world class. I expect that every single seat will be filled at this institution at Western Carolina and Elizabeth City. I mean, eventually we may be oversubscribed, but that's a high-class problem. You know, we need more people accessing higher education so they'll have the skills to be successful.
Chancellor Cummings praised the sentiments of Dr. Spellings' words and stated that some of the progress is starting here at UNCP through a new partnership program with Robeson Community College called Brave Step to entail that everyone can get a high-class education.
We're collaborating, as President Spellings noted, with our local community college so that even those students who may not rise to our academic standards, instead of saying no to a 4-year university, we're going to send them through our program called Brave Step to the local community college. Our counselors will work with them, their counselors will work with them, so that after a year or two, as we see how they perform academically, then we bring them here on our campus and we give them a 4-year education.
For Carolina News Today, I'm Malik Worrells.
UNCP's Model United Nations team continued its winning ways over the weekend at the Southern Regional in Charlotte. The team came home with 8 awards, doubling their total from last year. 26 students from the campus represented Belarus, Egypt, Germany, and Malaysia. They came home with 3 individual awards, 2 team awards, and 3 awards for position papers. Faculty coordinator Dr. Kirill Boomin says they were one of the most decorated teams in a field of nearly 500 students. Next up, Atlanta in November.
A reception to honor graduating seniors was held this week at the Chancellor's residence. The senior social gave students a chance to mingle with Dr. Cummings and enjoy food and drink. Some seniors went for the ice cream. There was a champagne toast in advance of commencement. Remarks were made by Chancellor Cummings and Abdul Ghaffar from Student Involvement and Leadership, who hope to inspire graduates towards the future. Mass Comm major Marie Gaumont was a finalist for Outstanding Senior and said she appreciated the event.
I've never been here before, so it's a really cool experience, and it's nice to be able to interact with seniors before we graduate and go our different ways, and to have a nice glass of champagne together and celebrate our accomplishments is really great.
At the Senior Social, the Chancellor also handed out the Outstanding Graduate Award. There were 5 finalists, but only 1 senior was picked for the top commendation. To be a finalist, interested seniors had to turn in an application and participate in panel interviews by the review committee. The 5 finalists were all women and represented almost all areas of the university, from science to philosophy. Social work major Jordan Rourke came out on top. She's graduating with a degree in social work and is a member of the Honors College. She works for the United Way of Robeson County and volunteers on domestic violence issues. Chancellor Cummings praised Jordan's accomplishments.
Jordan Rourke has done a fantastic job. You heard her resume read, and some of the things that she's accomplished with her philanthropy and getting out and getting others to give has just been outstanding. She's just, but you know, she's one of many. It's like, which of your children do you love the most? They're all wonderful, and not just those 5 who were up there, but many, many more.
A routine fender bender in Pembroke Saturday night got weird fast. CNT reporter John Hicks was there.
A red van drove into the back of a black SUV Saturday night. The driver of the black SUV got out to make sure that the driver of the red van was unharmed. After telling her that he was all right, he proceeded to drive off from the scene of the accident. As it turns out, the driver of the black SUV was on the phone with her husband, who happens to be one of the police officers that was on duty that night. The police officer managed to pull the red van over. I was not able to get an interview with any of the police that night, But I was able to talk with the Chief of Police at the Pembroke Police Department, Ed Locklear, who told me more about the penalties for leaving the scene of a crash.
It's hit and run, leaving the scene of an accident. In the state of North Carolina, you're supposed to stop and exchange information so they can be charged with leaving the scene of an accident, which is a hit and run. As long as there's no body damage, and it's just property damage. When I say body damage, it's just basically as long as nobody's injured. In this case, the victims in the other vehicle, or the first vehicle, did go to the hospital. So if the person hadn't, if they would have left the scene, they could have been charged with a felony. The difference between a felony and a misdemeanor is simply, if someone's injured or not.
Everybody in the black SUV was sent to the hospital for evaluation. The case is still ongoing. For Carolina News Today, I'm John Hicks.
Safety officials across the state are getting together to learn how to improve road safety in their communities. And spring has sprung on the state's highways. You can see it in the DOT's popular wildflower program. It's NC DOT Now.
Welcome to this week's edition of NC DOT Now. I'm Carly Alexic. If you've driven on North Carolina's highways, you've probably noticed some beautiful, colorful wildflowers along the way. These flower beds are part of our wildflower program, one of the department's most popular initiatives. The wildflower beds are a great source of pride for the department staff who manage the program. Each year, division staff members are recognized by the Garden Club of North Carolina for their work to enhance the overall appearance and environmental quality of the state's roadways, and the competition is fierce.
When people around the corner and they see that bed sit up on that hillside, it's not just a single mono bed, it's the stripes, it's the colors, it's the shape. So the awards also brings forth that honor and recognition for the effort that they do.
Last week, the winners were announced during the Board of Transportation meeting in Raleigh. The Best Overall Division Wildflower Program Award went to Division 13. Division 4 received the William D. Johnson Daylily Award for US 264 at Downing Street in Wilson County. The best wildflower planting in the eastern region of the state went to Division 2 at US 70 and NC 148 in Lenoir County. Division 7 won the best wildflower planting in the central region for I-40, 85 at Mount Hope Church Road in Guilford County. The best wildflower planting in the western region went to Division 14 at I-40 at Exit 31 in Haywood County. Started in 1985, the program is funded through the sale of personalized license plates and direct contributions. North Carolina now has more than 1,500 acres of flower beds statewide. If you're going to be planting flowers or doing other work in your yard this spring, it's important to remember that calling 811 should be your first step before digging. Many utilities are buried just a few inches below ground, so making a short phone call can help keep you and your community safe. Utility companies will typically mark underground lines on your property in 2 to 3 working days. Visit the website call811.com for more information. Meanwhile, this week, highway safety professionals from across the state were able to connect and learn how to improve roadway safety in their communities. The North Carolina Traffic Safety Conference, held in Wilmington, educated attendees on best practices, new initiatives, and safety technology aimed at reducing roadway crashes and fatalities. With about 800 attendees, this marked the largest such conference in state history. And that's all for this week's edition of NC DOT Now. As always, you can stay connected with us on Facebook and Twitter. That's at NCDOT. You can also follow us on Snapchat and Instagram at NCDOT.com. And from all of us at the North Carolina Department of Transportation, safe travels.
5 men charged in a Florida State University hazing death agreed to plea deals on Monday. They will serve jail time for 2 counts of misdemeanor hazing, but will avoid a trial and felony charges. Last November, 20-year-old Andrew Kofi was found unresponsive after a party hosted by Pi Kappa Phi at FSU. The Kofi family attorney says this isn't the first time Pi Kappa Phi had been at the center of a hazing tragedy. He says the death of a freshman in Cal State Chico's chapter 18 years ago was similar. Kofi's family is pursuing the fraternity and calling for an end to all Greek hazing.
When we get done with this deposition of Pi Kappa Phi, which will take several days, I'm sure, we're going to learn a lot more about this tradition that doesn't just go on by accident. It goes on because they think about how they're going to do it how we're going to get the pledges to do these things, how we're going to set it up, how we're going to orchestrate it.
Inmates in a Washington prison are participating in a program to help raise sheep. It's not only giving inmates skills that can help them once they are released, it's also helping the sheep population overcome a deadly bacteria. CNN News Source tells us more.
Justin Lang is a self-proclaimed city boy, born and raised in Tacoma.
The experience has been nothing like I've ever been used to.
He's now one of the inmates caring for these bighorn sheep at Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla.
There's a lot of us that are in prison that actually could use this type of learning ability, the education.
Bighorn sheep were once widespread in North America. Now they're an endangered species. Many sheep infected with a bacteria that causes pneumonia, causing the populations to dwindle. But the prison hoping to save the sheep and change lives.
One of the most effective ways to reduce recidivism is to offer education.
Kelly Bush is with the Sustainability in Prisons Project, now partnering with WSP and the Department of Fish and Wildlife to make the program happen.
And so we look to offer it and then also bring in the therapeutic benefits of work with nature.
The goal is to raise sheep without the pneumonia-causing bacteria known as MOV. The inmates are raising the sheep, caring for the animals outside as they strive to better themselves within.
We might face another sort of issues in there. We get out here and we see them playing on the mound. It's able to put a smile on.
Justin Lang finding his place on the farm.
It allows us to calm down and to be with the sheep.
And hoping to take the lessons he's learned with him into the world.
I'd like to take with me this experience and be able to share it with my children.
This week marked the 80th anniversary of the first appearance of the Superman character, now a worldwide icon. Superman was created in Cleveland, Ohio back in 1938, kicking off the Action Comics series for the publisher Detective Comics, now known as DC. The company is putting out an oversized 1,000th issue to celebrate the milestone. Mass communication professor Terrence Dollard says the character's impact on pop culture is unmatched.
It's no exaggeration to say the 1938 debut of Superman in Action Comics #1 changed the world. Superman inspired a comic book boom, hundreds of new superheroes. Even the term superhero comes from his name. He was the first superhero on the radio, in motion pictures, and on television. And if you look at today's top blockbuster films, they're dominated by superheroes. There's a reason why Superman has been around for 80 years, and there's no reason to believe he won't be around forever.
The golf team has their best conference finish since 2014.
And the Boston Marathon has a surprise finish.
Sports are up next with Dolphus Pearson III.
Welcome back. Braves baseball snapped their two-game losing streak against Wingate this week. The Braves held Wingate to no hits until the 7th inning, when the Bulldogs finally had a hit halfway through the 7th. UNCP has now captured 28 out of the last 31 matchups against the Bulldogs. The Braves had an 11-0 shutout against Wingate, and then the team will start their 4-game home streak later in the week. The softball team had a doubleheader this week against Columbus State. This continued Peach Belt Conference parade for the Braves. UNCP lost their game, adding to their 8-game losing streak in 11 days. In the first game, the Braves lost 18-1, and in the second game, they lost 26-8. The Braves are back in action this week when they travel to Murfreesboro to play Chowan University. The golf team ended their conference tournament play over the weekend in St. Augustine, Florida. The team finished in second place overall, only 2 strokes behind the first place team, Flagler College. The Braves were in first place after the first 2 days, but a few tornado watches and 25-mile-per-hour winds made it hard for the Braves to stay in first place. Flagler College overtook the Braves and ended up winning the tournament. Even though the Braves lost, Alexandria Bear and Maddie Corley tied for second place overall. The 6th annual Cash Bash in the Department of Athletics will raise money for scholarships. The theme this year is a toast to Dan Kinney. Kinney was a longtime basketball coach and athletic director for UNCP before transitioning to chief of staff for the chancellor. He had 124 wins as a head coach. On the Black and Gold Report, Javed Giddings from Athletics explains the reasoning behind this year's theme.
Mr. Kennedy has exemplified great courageousness throughout the community as well as commitment towards the university. So what we thought was by putting Mr. Kennedy as the #1 person or the #1 spotlight in our cash bash this year, it will be the best way to honor him as well as give our student athletes a chance, fighting chance for more revenue for scholarships.
In the black and gold football scrimmage last week, the gold team outplayed the black. The teams were captain's choice and showcased redshirt freshmen such as Adonai Aloma and Tyshawn Carter. Gold defense made the big difference in the 10-0 win against the black. Coach Shane Richardson says there's a lot he can assess from the spring game. For the first time in more than 3 decades, an American woman has won the Boston Marathon. CNN News Source has her story.
And Des Linden wins the Boston Marathon!
For someone who thought about quitting at mile 6, Des Linden still had enough gas for a flag-waving stroll near the finish line.
I'm thrilled. I'm exhausted. I left it all out there, and I'm now ready to warm up.
But she felt like complete garbage early on, telling fellow American Shalane Flanagan she'd likely drop out. Instead, it was Flanagan who would bail.
I knew the conditions were bad, but I knew I was running really slow, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get chewed up.
But when Linden realized she was running 3rd or 4th, she figured she'd stick around and make her move, taking the lead just shy of mile 22. Even so, she wasn't convinced she'd be the first American woman to win Boston in more than 3 decades.
I just felt like it was survival out there. I have no idea where things fell behind me.
But all eyes right now on Des Linden as she makes the turn.
In fact, it was only on those final 2 turns that Linden began to believe. But her trip down Boylston Street was haunted by the memory of 2011 when she lost her lead in the last few steps.
I've been in a sprint finish on Boylston, so I still tried not to let off the gas until I got right up to the tape.
She says winning the race that first inspired her to be a marathon runner is storybook stuff.
It was kind of hilarious how it worked out.
Because on a day when she almost quit, she beat Mother Nature to be the 2018 champ.
It hurts right now, but it's a perfect day for me.
That's it for sports. Back to the studio.
Thanks, DP.
We're out of time too. See you next week.